Hey, hello. Hey, and welcome to the space between ideas. Uh, I'm going to be referring right away to the documents that we created yesterday. So I'm just going to share my screen with Arrowhead on Notion. So you can see that although I guess we didn't get the preview. With the other ones, we got the previews. So yeah, I remember something strange was happening just a little bit ago when I was doing this. Let's see if we can reload that preview. All right, looks like we cannot turn it into a mention, align it, expand maybe? No. More actions. Reload preview. All right, what happens if I click it? All right, clicking it, problem. Clicking it gives us the document. All right, so what we did yesterday was this idea that, I have this long chat with Gemini about the software project that I'm building. And the issue is that, okay, well, what happens if I lose this conversation? Or like maybe it would be helpful if I could upload these. So the question is, before, well, we'll just do audio. All right, so before we start putting any kind of prompt into our AI coding helpers, let's do a little test to find out how well we've created the documentation and how well that documentation can be used in a new chat window. I've taken those 4 different markdown version explanations of this project, and what I wanna do is I wanna plug it into a new window here within Gemini. Now, in order for you to understand how well those prompts are going to calibrate the new window so that it can help us right away with developing this software, I want you to create a test. You can ask a series of questions, and then I'm gonna plug in those test questions into the new AI chat window after I've fed in those 4 documents. And then based on the answers of those chat questions, the questions that you're gonna provide me right now, that should give you an idea of how well the new window understands what this project is about, and you can compare its answers against how you would answer those questions in order to potentially either change those 4 documents or to add new documents in order to properly calibrate the new window so that we have the best opportunity of continuing our project where we left off. All right, so let's see what our coding partner has to say about this. Now, if you're just here for the first time, what we did was we've been talking about my little project here. It's called Arrowhead, and all right, so I used to use a PRD, a products requirements document, and in the last couple of videos, I decided to just restart the program, restart the project, and after having a long conversation with Gemini about what my app is all about, it decided to create these 4 different documents. And then with these 4 documents, it basically calibrates the window so that it understands what the project is about, and then we can continue the conversation. Then I asked it to provide me with the first AI coding tool prompt so I could plug that into Gemini, so that I can plug that into Cursor or Windsurf or Replete, and then we would be able to start the project. So we're still trying to test the differences between these different coding tools. And but before we jump into those coding tools, it seems like it's a good idea to design the project, get the project ready to go. Now, I think it's better if you use something like Notion because Notion helps you to organize those documents a little bit better. Now we have, look, foundational 4 markdown files for AI, and then we got the first prompt for AI coding tool. We can keep track of the history of our documentation. listen and see what Gemini has to say about this. All right. Oh, you can't hear that audio. Interesting. All right. So this is why we test the audio because sometimes the audio doesn't come through. All right. Anyways, basically what how are we gonna do this? All right. I'm gonna plug us into this new window. I don't know if the audio is gonna work this time, but hopefully. Now what it's saying is, hmm, all right, I'm gonna stop the sharing, and then we're gonna start up the sharing again. All right, so here's a new window, right? So I'm going to tell you about okay, so the thing is that I want to make sure I click the coding module, coding partner. There we go. I have been discussing the the details of my app, and here are 4 documents that will help you understand it. Afterward, I'll give you a test to see how well you understand the project. So I'm just going to go in my other window. I'm just going to go and open up that first doc. I'm going to click the doc. The preview works this time. And I'm going to select all. And then we're going to copy. Come back to Gemini. Paste. Go back to Arrowhead. Document number 2. Open. Select all. Copy. Paste. Now go back to Arrowhead. Document number 3, open, select all, copy, back to Gemini, paste, back to Arrow, document number 4, open, select all, copy, back to Gemini, and paste. Now, I have a problem with this document number 4 because it says something like PNG files at the bottom. Like, why does it say this references the following images? So we ensure that these files are available alongside the documentation. So then I think what we should do is because we don't have the files, we don't have those images. Now I'm just gonna all right, so I just copied the so I'll show it to you, but I'm just gonna do the test first. And as it's doing a test, in your documentation, it talks about PNG files, but those files are not in the set of docs. All right, so there's the answers to the questions. If a quick point, you're absolutely right. To make the documentation effective for priming the new text-based chat window, we need to incorporate the essential information of those images within the markdown files themselves while describing the UA layouts. Here's where we can update the relevant files. Section 4.2 projects page. Instead of project page PNG, I'll add the description like layout shows. P name and yes. All right, so what's going to happen here is we got the app structure workflow MD. Which one is that? App structure workflow MD. That says app structure and workflow. This is module definitions back development strategy. All right, so it looks like document 2. this is saying 4.3 starting with 4. Now if I copy the code, and this is what, file number 2? So it should start with a select all. How many pages is this? That's just 2. Okay. And then the other one is module specs. Management guidance, detailed module specifications. So it's here. Okay, so we've updated those files, but I don't really care. All right, so, well, this is something about Gemini. You can't actually just copy it. Oh, yeah, maybe you can. You can copy here. Yeah, we can copy. All right, so let's go back to Gemini 1. Here's the response after feeding the markdown files. All right, so it's saying it's successful. Okay, so what about in our discussion previously, we also talked about a few other things. For example, we talked about the concept of what was the concept about that psychologist who, when we used the example of football, where we showed that to become a better football player, then there's certain categories of behavior, and then those categories can be broken down into smaller categories, and then those categories can be broken down into elements, and then as we train those elements or produce exercises to help those elements, then we can develop the overall category, and then those subcategories, development of those subcategories will make an increase in the overall categories, and the overall categories will lead to a person who's able to become a better football player. Anders Anders sounds like the guy that helped Karl Marx, but actually it's a different guy. And we also talked about the concept of what else did we talk about? We talked about how a software development team would be broken up into different roles, and what role I would take and what role you would take, and then how we could incorporate the different types of roles in order to get better outputs from you as an AI helper, and also to integrate better when working with AI coding tools. And we also talked about, we used the brainstorming tool to discuss different options and what might be a better way to produce the application, what we should focus on. So there's a lot of details that we talked about that aren't included in this overall set of documents that talks about the project. And my question is, do those discussions and the output of those discussions, does that help to calibrate the AI coding assistant or the AI tool that I'm using to discuss this project and to work together when producing things? Now, I'm just going to stop sharing because sometimes the audio has a problem when I'm skipping from screen to screen. So I'm just going to start over again. And I suppose it's this one. Yeah, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to have to go back to my other videos, last couple videos, and you can see the discussions that we've had. What is this? And let's see what they got to say.
You are absolutely right to bring that up. We have discussed several important concepts and made decisions beyond what's explicitly detailed in the final 4 Markdown specification files. You mentioned key examples. 1. Anders Ericsson and Deliberate Practice, the detailed analogy explaining the rationale for breaking the development into multiple focused projects. 2. Roles and Responsibilities, our discussion using the RACI matrix example to define your role as PM, designer, and my flexible roles, BA, architect, scrum master, dev assistant, co-PM, guide, including the expectation that I provide step-by-step guidance. 3. Detailed brainstorming output, the full set of ideas generated when we use the brainstorm module for the overall project, which informed the potential objectives list. 4. Competitive research, our initial look at link to Monday.com and ClickUp, which helped establish the desire for simplicity and a focused methodology as differentiators. 5. Documentation strategy, our meta discussion about using Notion plus Google Docs and the plan to create these 4 files. 6. Testing the documentation, our recent discussion evaluating the effectiveness of the 4 files. Do these discussions help calibrate an AI assistant? Yes, absolutely. While the 4 documentation files effectively capture the what, the specifications, plans, structures, and workflows, these surrounding discussions provide crucial why and how. 1. Context and rationale. Understanding why we chose multiple projects, deliberate practice, or why simplicity is important, competitive landscape, helps an AI assistant make more relevant suggestions and understand priorities. 2. Intent and nuance. Details like the primary focus being a manager's thinking tool, rather than purely team collaboration, influence how features might be interpreted or implemented. 3. Working agreement. Knowing our defined roles helps calibrate the interaction style. Knowing you require step-by-step guidance informs the level of detail I should provide. 4. Process understanding. Seeing how we used modules like Brainstorm and Choose helps the AI understand the desired problem-solving process for the future. How it applies. In our current continuous chat, I have access to this full history and use it constantly to inform my responses and guidance. For priming a new chat instance, the test showed the 4 documentation files are highly effective at conveying the core project details, the what, including summaries of key contextual points, like the role definitions or core principles, within those documents, perhaps in link to project_overview.md or link to dev_strategy_plan.md, could add extra depth, but might also make the priming documents longer. Given the successful test, the current files seem to strike a good balance. For AI, coding helpers, Cursor, Replit, AI, etc., these tools are typically focused on specific code generation tasks. Feeding them the entire conversational history is likely impractical and unnecessary. The 4 documentation files provide the essential project specification context. The human user, you, possessing the full context of our discussions, can then provide the necessary nuance, rationale, or specific instructions within individual prompts given to those coding tools. Your understanding of the why and how guides your interaction with them. In summary, the 4 documentation files are excellent for conveying the core plan and specs. The contextual discussions provide valuable layers of understanding regarding intent, rationale, and working style, which definitely help calibrate an AI, like me, within an ongoing conversation and implicitly inform how you will interact with more focused AI coding tools.
I guess I could just do this with audio. Provide an additional markdown file that can be used to discuss all of the ideas that you've presented above, and specifically explains how I want the AI to use the modules within the project to guide the way that it is thinking and acting within the process of doing this project. For example, the AI should always understand the projects that we are working on and have an understanding of the objectives that we're working on. And when we are working on projects, it should look to the opportunity to go through the brainstorming modules and the choose module in order to figure out which objective we should be working on right now. And then using the objective module, it should use the objective module and create a scoreboard so that we understand the tasks that we are working on right now. And each time we work together, we're going to do a touch base so that with each interaction, we can drill deeper and deeper down into getting this project completed. It's important for us to use this process so that we can actually complete this project and also have a very clear understanding of all the projects within this larger project and also all of the objectives within each of the projects so that we have a very large framework for how we're going to get this project completed. Also, the additional information about deliberate practice and about the different roles on the team, as well as the context from the history of our chat, where we discussed what our app is and what potential competitors are and what the competitive advantages that we are using and the overall vision of our project are also important within the context. Please add additional information as you deem necessary so that the new AI chat window will have all of the context necessary for us to continue to move forward and be successful in this project. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to jump into our this one. We're going to create a new doc. Going to be number 5. And it's going to be, well, all right, so next, here it is. It's, okay, I understand you completely. You want additional 5th markdown file. And here we go. So we're just going to copy this. You, the user, AI assistant, core processes, main context, defining work, tracking progress, overall goals, key principles, interaction with AI coding helper, documentation structure. I don't know to what degree this is going to be helpful. Okay, seems like it has everything. There you go. So today we did a little update. We checked our documentation concept, and then we were able to test our current system. And finally, we decided that there was some additional markdown file. We wanted to create one additional markdown file to highlight what we're doing here. Make sure that we have everything that's needed so that if we lose our work or dang. Well, anyways, well, it definitely opens the document. Let's try one more time. There you go. So we've done it. Oh, it's time to go. I got another meeting. I was so happy to see everyone today. We did some good work, and let's keep it going.